Right now, I'm going to show you how to blend different layers into a scene inside of Photoshop, and we'll create a kind of cyberpunk style piece of artwork while we're doing it. Hey Cafe crew, Colin Smith here from photoshopCAFE.com, and right now I'm going to show you how to blend different layers together to create a a unified scene. So let's just go ahead and start right now. So the first thing I've got here is just a photograph, and then I'm dropping a car in. I'm not going to go into how to cut out all the objects because I've got lots and lots of tutorials about that. So what we really want to focus on is how to blend these together to make them look like they're in one scene. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to the top, and I'm going to create a brand new layer, and we're going to create a cyberpunk kind of scene. So what we need is the light blue, which is already here, and then we want a pinkish tone. So why don't we have the pinkish tone coming from the left hand side. So let's go to the gradient tool, and then we want to choose a pink. Great. And then we're going to change our gradient to foreground to transparent. You can see the checkerboard that tells us we've got transparent. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this gradient. You just click and drag. You'll see this line. And then when I release, it's going to apply that color. So that's going to be pretty good. So we've got a nice pinkish glow we're going to add on that side. Let's create a new layer. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, but this time we're going to go with the blue. So let's click to change the color. We're going to go down to a blue, like a light blue. And then we're just going to kind of drag it across the other side. So this is creating our ambient light, which is, the kind of light that we're going to have in our scene. Now, obviously, this is a little too strong, so we're going to try some blending modes. Why don't we go down to color blending mode, and we could do that for both and see how that looks. All right, so that's definitely giving us that color we're looking for. That's a good start. Why don't I just put these into a group? I'm just going to hold down the Shift key, select them, Control G for group, and we're going to just call this overlays. Okay, so what we've done now is we've established lighting. We've got pink coming from the left, and then we've got blue coming from the right. So then when it comes to things like the car and some of these other objects, we want to start thinking about an accent light. So I'm going to go on the car. Before we do anything, I want to reduce the saturation that already exists. So with that layer selected, choose the adjustments, and then let's just choose hue saturation and pull the saturation back a little bit. We're not going to take it all the way back, but just a little bit. And that's reducing the overall saturation in the image. Now, if we just want to affect the car, you'll see there's this little icon there. Just click on that, and now it's only going to affect the car and not all the layers underneath. So if we look at this before and after, not a big change. So maybe we'll go just a little bit more. And that looks good. So we don't want too much color coming in from the original colors. Great. Now, what we want to do is think about the light. So we've got this pink light is going to come from the left, but it's also going to hit some other areas, such as this blow-up gas pump thing, whatever it is. So why don't we go down to the bottom layer, and this is the layer that is our image. Then you can choose the Object Selection tool, and just drag around the Object Selection tool to select it. And you know what? That's going to be perfect. So what we're looking for is that left edge there, and now we want to apply a pinkish hue. So we're going to go back to the top, and we're going to create a new layer, and we'll call it pink, which is probably magenta, is probably the color that they're using, but that's okay. All right, so what we're going to do is click on the blue here, and I just want to go to the pink. Great. So we want to create a wraparound kind of an effect. So there's two parts. There's going to be a rim, which is going to get a lot of light, and then there's going to be the light that slowly blends around. Why don't we start with the bigger light source? So we're going to grab the brush with that pink as our foreground. We've got our opacity set to 20. Why don't we set our flow down to about 10? Shift 1 will get us there. And I'm going to hit the right bracket key to make the brush bigger. So I want a really, really big brush. That's good. So then what we're going to do is we're going to start to paint. But we want to get it just on the edge. So let's go there. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to start here and we're just going to go down. So you notice with that low flow and that low opacity, it's just slowly building up. And that's great. And now as I want to just kind of blend it, notice I'm moving that brush further away to the point it's not even over the area, but we're still getting a little bit of that light. And see how it starts to just kind of blend around there? Now we want to go smaller, much, much smaller. And this time I'm going to bump my opacity up to about 40-ish. And we're just going to paint on the edge. And notice that selection just protects that area for me, so it makes it nice and easy to just kind of create that. Now if I hit Control D, I can turn that off. And you can notice we're getting some kind of that light. So now the light's coming from here to over there. Now this light could be a little brighter, and we'll work on that in a little bit. In fact, why don't we do that now? So if I increase this, and I just want to go very low, so I'm going to take my opacity down about 10 or even lower. I'm just going to just kind of dab a little bit in here. What it's doing is just adding a little bit of that pink. See how it is just, and I'm allowing it to go over so it looks a little hazy. That's great. That's what I want. Okay, let's bring it down a little bit. And now you want to look for other areas that would be picking it up. Like this sign here would be picking it up a little bit. So using this object selection tool, we're going to go down, select that at the bottom. Make the selection, and then go in the top and paint. I'm just going to have a little bit of pink. So you can use those selections, see how that would just kind of help you get a little bit better. And then you've got areas like here, I'm just going to paint directly on. So a little bit of that might be just kind of bleeding around. Because we're thinking that the light source is coming from this side, right? So everything that's facing there, we want to give it just a little bit more of that pink. So I might even go in here. A little bit of that might be just kind of coming in there. And in fact, just to break it up, let me increase our opacity and my flow. And that's way too high. Let's bring that down quite a bit. Still way too high. Let's bring that down. There we go. And you just want to just kind of just let it just kind of hit some of these areas so that we've got a little bit of pink in there. So we're just kind of mixing it up so it's not looking too flat. Otherwise it's going to look too flat with the color. All right, this time I'm going to take this very, very small brush and I'm thinking these windows. If I tap on the top, hold the shift key and then click again, it creates a fine line. See that? So I'm just creating a fine line just on the edge of those windows. And let's go there. So it just picks up a little bit. So we're not going hard with that. Notice that. We're just going quite soft. The edges of these air conditioning units might get a little bit. That's way too hard. Let's take that back down. And of course you can play around with different blending modes too. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be painted on. In this case, we're just going to paint some of this. So we're just going to paint in a little bit of that pink. Once again, if I was using that object selection tool, I might get that a little bit more precise. I just want to pick up a little bit. And now I'm going to take my flow down really low and just give it just a touch of that pink on those edges. See, I'm barely touching it. But a little bit is going to go a long way. Now the same thing would happen with these people. You know, you would start to see a little bit of that just kind of hit their rim on the side. That's the side that's facing towards the pink. And let me turn it up just a little bit on this one. Let's go super low. And I'm just painting right on that rim. See that? And this is also going to give a little bit of an effect here of a little bit more depth as well. So essentially what we're doing is almost like dodging and burning, but we're doing this with color. And right now we're using this for dodging and burning. This would, I mean, for Cyberpunk, but this would work for anything really. All right, so we've got a bit of that. See how that light's just kind of hitting them a little bit. And let's have a look at our car. So Control-click on the mask there, and then we can just kind of paint on this. Let's go quite low, and maybe just give it a little bit of rim on the top. Turn that flow up. There we go. There we go. That's a little bit better. And so you can always start for a very low amount and then just kind of, it's easier to, go for a low amount and then just build it up a little bit than it would be to go with a high amount and then try and reduce it later. Maybe this inside of those rims will be getting it a little bit. That rim's already getting it. But any surfaces that would be pointing towards the right there, not really anything there would be getting it. And a little bit on that window. All right, cool. And we just turn that off, Control D, and you can start to see, okay, let's see how far we've come so far. So this is what we've been painting. So there we are before and after. You can see we're starting to get it. Now, why don't we go in and then do something with the blues? So I'm going to create another layer above pink and we'll call it blue. And this time we're going to grab a light blue. And then we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to be looking at the surfaces coming the other way. So now we're on that rim. So it wouldn't even matter if this, particular vehicle wasn't already blue. It's not a very good cutout at the back there, to be honest. We'll hide that in a little bit. And I might just brighten it up just a tad. And by doing that, that's just going to allow a little bit more of the blue rim light. So we can have some light, a little bit more light coming through. It's too strong there. Let's bring the flow down. And then we're just going to put a little bit, I'm just kind of testing it, just putting it on the people. Yeah, it's pretty subtle. In fact, let's bring it up just a little bit higher. Let's put a little bit on the front windshield of the car and the top surface. Let it get some of that blue. There we go. And even though we got the pink there, I'm just going to paint a little bit there. And we've got this. Some of this we might be... let's see what we can do with making a selection. So let's grab our object selection tool. Let's go down the bottom there. Drag around. See if it's going to help as much. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. It's not bad. There we go. So let's grab our blue brush and we're just going to paint in here. Oops. Let me make sure I paint on the right layer. There we go. Make sure you grab your blue layer. There we go. Now we can start to add some color. Now this doesn't have to become super blue, but when we start to add the blue and just kind of blend it into that existing color, we're going to start to see some other colors. I'm not like super happy with what I'm getting with that though. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do it a harder brush. I'm going to turn off the selection and I'm just going to do my little trick for straight line. So you just hold, so you tap and hold, release, hold down the shift key and then tap on the end and notice it will create a straight line between the two areas where you clicked or tapped. There we go, and we can slowly start to build some of this in. Maybe go a little smaller with the brush for these ones in between. Left bracket key. There we go. And it doesn't have to be strong blue. The blue and the pink blend together to create some interesting tones, and they can give an interesting result. So there we go. And see how it builds a little bit of dimension there? It's kind of fun. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this bigger. And we've got a low amount of flow. And I'm just going to just kind of tap a little bit in here. See what I'm doing? I'm creating a little bit of haze. Just with the low amount. And this haze can really do a lot, as you'll see in a second. You know, if we look at this before and after, see what we're starting to build up. And let's go back into that pink again. Same thing, but this time I want to go a little bit brighter. Let's take it into a brighter area of pink. And now, where the areas of illumination are, you want to just kind of paint in here and see how it creates a little bit of an effect. It looks a little bit like a glow. And let's do the same thing with the blues. So it creates a glow. But a glow with a very heavy atmosphere, which would be more accurate for this kind of style. Because, you know, it's very polluted. Let's just do a little bit more there. There we go. And we're starting to get a little bit more of that. It's not clean air. See? See how that just kind of gives us atmosphere, fog, whatever. Do a little bit more of the pink. A little bit there. There we go. Nice. All right, so if we look at what we did before, there we were, and then we go after. See how we're adding this atmosphere at the very end, I think adds a kind of cool effect. And then we can use some overlays. You know, we've got some different things here. And here's another picture that I kind of just cut out and added in. You know, it's just little accents you could add in here. And all these are just different shapes. In fact, let me show you what that one was that I just added. It's just a photo I found of a storefront. Just dropped it in there. And then, in fact, why don't I redo the adjustments just so you can see what I did. So I'll redo it for you. I'm going to reset transformation. And there we go. There's the original when I brought it in. Control T or Command T for free transform. Hold down the Alt or the Option key and that will zoom it from the center. And then all I did, or we're doing it right now, is we're just going to go over an area we want to hide. So if we don't care about those people there and we'd rather make this look like a storefront, right click, choose Distort, and then just grab the corners. So we can grab that corner there. Let's bring this one in. And let's do that one. Apply it. And you can see we're just kind of blending that in. So that was just kind of how you can blend these together. And the other thing is, if you're worried about these edges and you want those to blend in a little more, just create a layer mask. Grab a brush. Make sure you set black as your foreground color. Let's get that opacity and that flow up really high. So let's go into the brush here. Let's take the hardness to the left so it's nice and soft. You see what I'm doing? I'm just kind of blending that in. And if that feels too abrupt, the other way you can do it is go with that big brush like we did before. Make sure you got your brush selected, got our mask. Let's go with that massive brush, and then you can just get the edges and see how those edges just give you a really nice blend. If you don't actually touch the area that you're blending, just let the edges blend in there, it can just kind of create some interesting effects. Of course, you can see a little bit of the woman there, so that might not be what you want. But you can just kind of see there. there's our before. Here's the atmosphere that we're painting in right there. And then, of course, there's our colors coming from the sides. And that's how you kind of take a normal scene and you turn it into a cyberpunk scene. So anyway, I hope you found this useful. If you learned anything new, let me know in the comments underneath. And by the way, if you're new here, welcome to Photoshop Cafe. Consider hitting that subscribe button and then you'll get a new tutorial from me every single week. And if you like this, smash the like button into dust. And until next time, I'll see you at the cafe.